nigga sleeping on the floor.
See lower, stand by for in and out.
Is that Daisy Dukes you got on?
I hear you knocking, but you can't come in.
I didn't count the stacks, so apparently we won.
753, second floor control.
Third hood. Hey, man, take They heard about rapping in here.
Direct supervision is really just a common sense approach to working on jail overcrowding.
And the only thing you got to do is have a more progressive attitude about whether you can incarcerate these people and control them in a less restrictive environment. We found that you can.
The direct supervision type of situation will help people find their rightful place in society, and I think that's what our correction system has to be all about.
Well, I think it represents a modernistic approach to correctional institutions. Obviously, what we've been doing in the past hasn't worked.
Overcrowded jails throughout the country are forcing officials to reevaluate the way we lock up criminals.
It's also evident that if we do not have some rehabilitative effect in the criminal justice system, that we're never going to build our way out of this problem. We have realized that here in Jefferson County.
About 5 years ago, leaders in Jefferson County realized they had to do something if they were going to keep the streets safe for law-abiding citizens. The county jail, built in 1981, was terribly overcrowded, holding nearly twice as many inmates as it was designed for. It was painfully evident the county needed a new jail, a jail that would cost millions of dollars to build and would take community support to do it. The sheriff convinced other community leaders that a new type of jail, a direct supervision correctional facility, would do the job better than the old traditional steel bars and concrete lockup, and it would cost a lot less to build and a lot less to operate. The average price tag for a traditional style lockup is more than $24,000 per bed. Jefferson County spent less than $15,000 per bed to build its new county jail, a direct supervision facility. And direct supervision costs a lot less to operate than traditional jails. One corrections officer supervises approximately 48 inmates in a dormitory. The officer is in constant direct contact with the inmates. It's easier for him to prevent trouble rather than just reacting to it. And since personnel costs account for as much as 70% of the total operating budget of a jail, keeping personnel on the job is important. National studies show that sick leave is generally lower in direct supervision jails, and job satisfaction among officers is higher. Over a 4-month period, Jefferson County corrections officers working in the old jail downtown took twice as many sick days as those at the new direct supervision facility in Mid-County.
There's a lot more smiles on faces. There's a lot less absentee due to sickness. The guys just don't mind coming to work.
It's fresher, you get a lot of fresh air, and just being around the people, they act differently. You have a lot less trouble out of the inmates, especially from a female and male inmate standpoint.
There's also a lot less turnover at the new facility. During the first 18 months of operation, only 2 employees left. And since inmates are always under the watchful eye of an officer, general maintenance and repair costs are much lower.
That means that they're not going to destroy your property. That means they're not going to tear up your mattresses. They're not going to stuff the sewers and constantly have maintenance problems.
Overall, the inmates behave much better under direct supervision.
Since January of 1992, when we've opened the new jail under direct supervision, there has only been 4 fights at the new facility, with only 1 criminal case filed, inmate on inmate. There's been no cases, no instances of inmates assaulting an officer.
The new Jefferson County Correctional Facility is located on 70 acres of land on Highway 69, just south of the Beaumont city limits. The state's newest correctional facility, the Stiles Unit, is less than a mile away, and in between are 350 acres, land that would be well suited for additional correctional facilities.
For a prison or a correctional facility site, you want a rural type setting, but you want all the amenities as far as utilities that a urban area can provide. And this is such an area that I'm describing to you.
The land is just minutes from the Jefferson County Airport. The regional airport has 3 commercial carriers in addition to a terminal for private aircraft. Lamar University is also just minutes away. The University and Training Division of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department have developed the state's first corrections academy that prepares students not only for work in a county jail, but in a state correctional facility as well.
They would be receiving the same curriculum as any TDCJ employee, and we would work very closely, as we have in the past, with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
What we've done is taken the minimum standards by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the minimum standards of the Texas Jail Commission. We've put those and applied them both in the theory and in the practice, and we've added things as far as practical application.
Officials have instituted a number of educational and training programs for inmates as well. Programs they believe will help the inmates steer clear of crime once they're released from jail.
What I really hope to see in the future is not seeing a lot of these guys come back. I like to see a lot of them actually make it, and I think a lot of them can.
The GED class is so popular there's a waiting list to get in, and more computers ordered so the program can expand. In a classroom on the other side of the facility, female inmates are learning the basics of business with the help of an instructor from Chenier Business College. Each dormitory has a classroom in the center of the building, providing space for formal group instruction and individual study in a variety of subjects. And these classes are much more than just classes. They're often the type of support an inmate needs to succeed at something other than crime. Corrections officers help the inmates at the new Jefferson County Jail organize a group called Positive Production.
They have to make the choice to change. We cannot make them change, but this is a tool for them to work with to make those changes necessary not to come back into the system.
One of the most important things, I think, is having pride within themselves, accepting discipline and accepting self-responsibilities. With those three things, we can change most anybody's life.
The inmates publish a monthly newsletter detailing their accomplishments and encouraging each other. They learn practical life coping skills so they don't make the same mistakes that led them to crime in the first place. A large warehouse at the jail will soon be the site of vocational classes in diesel automotive and air conditioning repair. The structured classroom training is just part of Jefferson County's rehabilitation program and an example of the cooperation between public and private entities here. There's no shortage of jobs inmates can perform both within the correctional facility and throughout the community.
We know this from the phone calls that we get. You know, they call us more and more. The guys have a calendar that they have practically something to do every day. We have to turn people down.
Behind the razor wire fences, inmates perform all sorts of duties, from general cleanup to garden and landscape jobs. The availability of land at the new facility in Mid-County makes it possible for inmates to enjoy the sunshine and at the same time learn how to grow tomatoes and peppers, or maybe to landscape and plant shrubs.
If you can hold a job in jail, then you can hold a job outside the jail. And they've done a great job here holding the job down and getting this garden put together. I think it's going to benefit them once they get out in the world.
Some inmates need a little more encouragement to realize their work potential, and Jefferson County Sheriff Carl Griffith is working to help them in that area. His plan for an inmate boot camp is beginning to take shape, and once again, the availability of space at the Mid-County facility will make that possible. Inmates will go through all the traditional drills of a boot camp and learn the usual lessons of discipline and respect. They'll also begin their tour of duty in a tent. As they show progress, they'll graduate to more comfortable quarters.
We teach them discipline, and many of these folks have never had discipline in their lives. And
outside the jail fences, inmates are also learning what it's like to put in a day of hard work. On some days, convicted drug offenders tear down crack houses, while in another part of the county, inmates help improve the look of the community, sometimes with picks and shovels, sometimes with jackhammers, but always with physical labor. It's a lesson for inmates on the satisfaction of a job well done. There's no magical way to turn criminals into law-abiding, productive members of society, but direct supervision and the programs that are possible because of it can make a difference. This new type of jail provides an atmosphere that stresses the positive. It encourages inmates to think about doing something constructive with their lives. And here in Jefferson County, dedicated community leaders are constantly striving to find ways to turn the tide on crime.
I think Jefferson County certainly has provided part of the key in the overall criminal justice system, and I think this is just another idea that we certainly have to look at, and if it is successful, then I think we would have to say that Jefferson County is the foremost leader in this particular area in the state of Texas.
If we want to break the cycle, if we want to get them back in society, if we want to keep them from being permanent guests of the state, we need to take an enlightened approach.
Everybody is looking for a way to reduce recidivism. And, you know, our experience here, in fact, in all of community corrections statewide, even nationally, most of these things are so new, it's very difficult to right now measure them and to say these things are absolutely, positively going to work. But I think that the preliminary data is there to indicate the strong probability that if you get the right kind of category of offender and the right kind of program, that's about as good as we can do to try and get that person back as a productive citizen.
Building more jails and prisons is not the answer. But if we're forced to build more correctional facilities, we need to do it using what we already know. Direct supervision may be part of the answer. Combined with the support of Jefferson County, it provides hope in an industry that is often without hope. Anyone who has stepped into the new correctional facility on Highway 69 in mid-Jefferson County can easily see direct supervision is a step in the right direction.
You see some of their dignity come back. You see them taking on responsibilities that they would not have before the program came about.
That's why we have programs here in this jail, because we want to see the day that we don't have to have all these jail beds.
It's very simple to take inmates and just warehouse them. But if you really want to do something with an individual and then you're hoping to put that individual back out into the community and be able to work out in society, then there are certain things you need to do.
Jefferson County Sheriff Carl Griffith recognized that need and began to do something about it shortly after taking office in 1989. 3 years later, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department began moving inmates into a brand new direct supervision correctional facility on 69 acres just south of the Beaumont city limits. The direct supervision concept at the new facility provided the atmosphere for inmate work and educational programs. Officers started to talk about how they could get inmates involved in more constructive activities rather than just spending all their time playing basketball and hanging out.
You find that where you have idle inmates, you have trouble. And we figured we'd start a work program and see where it went, and just kept building from there.
Deputies Michelle Patterson and Gary Sarge created a program in April of 1993 called Positive Production. The officers designed the program to teach inmates skills they can use to become productive members of society once they're released from jail. The backbone of the program is a fully operating wood shop. The wood shop started in a small dormitory classroom with inmates making a few small wooden crafts. It quickly outgrew that space and moved outside to a rec yard. Today, the Positive Production wood shop occupies a full-size dormitory building, and the work isn't confined there. In a neighboring building, female inmates finish the artwork. Inmates sell the wooden crafts and furniture to the general public in front of the correctional facility, and all the money goes back into the program.
There's not a tax dollar in this program. The inmates work for everything they get. We took $300 and we started a wood shop. It's worth $30,000 now.
All inmates in Positive Production start by working in the wood shop.
Some of them never touched wood before, and when they can build something and they have an accomplishment, that boosts their ego and makes them feel better about themselves. It teaches them what a 40-hour work week is. Some of them never worked before in their life. It teaches them responsibility.
After a full day of work, inmates are required to attend life skills classes.
Which tells me you should have.
These classes focus on things like decision-making, anger management, and communication skills. As the inmates progress through the 4-level program, they learn about finding and keeping a job and how to manage their finances. They're also required to get their general equivalency diploma if they haven't graduated from high school.
Well, right now we're searching for a leak in the system.
Vocational classes in air conditioning and refrigeration prepare inmates for jobs once they're released from jail.
The skill that I had before I come in here was welding, and it was seasonal work. And this here, I can use it year-round.
Inmates can also get training in auto mechanics and auto body paint and repair.
Either way.
Side to side, like a swing.
The goal here is that they got to realize that there's a struggle to everything that you want in life. And this is just an example of one of those kind of events that you might run into life. You could relate this to in life.
Sometimes an inmate needs a little extra preparation for classroom learning and work training.
I feel like a boot camp program, number one, can help with the discipline, which they need in order to get an education. First, you got to have the self-discipline to be able to sit down at a desk and actually learn the material in front of you and retain it.
The Sheriff's Department Boot Camp combines the physical hardships of a military-style program with classroom instruction and work programs. The boot camp inmates live in a large tent with no air conditioning and few, if any, home comforts. Their training day begins several hours before the sun rises and ends well into the night.
Going through boot camp, Senior D.I. Weaver taught us, practice makes perfect. Work hard in here, you're going to work hard in the world. Simple as that.
Feeding inmates is a round-the-clock job for inmates working in the jail's kitchen. For some, it's more than just a jail job. It's a place to practice the skills they're learning in restaurant and hotel management classes.
And since I've been here at this facility, I've learned how to be a responsible person. I also have a greater help from whom's above, but thanks to Sheriff Carl Griffith and the program back here, I'm becoming a better man.
Cooking in the great outdoors, barbecue style, keeps other inmates busy grilling up omelets and sausage for an early morning breakfast to burgers and fries for a late night snack for officers and inmates.
We make hamburgers, chili dogs, links, those are some of the popular items, boudin. French fries is the most popular. Fresh French fries go with the meal.
Working in the jail's burger shack teaches inmates more than just how to make a good hamburger.
I wanted to be busy while I was serving time. I didn't want to just lay around. But when I got in it, I realized that there were a lot of things I could learn. I've already gained a lot more self-esteem.
Tools over here. Give me platoon formation over there. Let's go. Let's move.
Inmate labor in a variety of areas keeps the Jefferson County Correctional Facility in tip-top shape. Inmates help out with all kinds of cleanup jobs. Inmates on maintenance crews help county employees with all types of construction, maintenance, and yard work at the facility. No matter what the task, you'll likely find inmates doing the work, taking some responsibility for themselves and their fellow inmates. Some of the work inmates take on, both inside and outside the facility, falls into the category of community service. Inmates receive no compensation for community service other than the satisfaction of helping others.
I fix these bikes and give them away to kids that need them that can't afford to buy them.
How's that make you feel?
Real good. Real good.
With the help of some local paint businesses and inmate labor, some low-income senior citizens are getting a fresh new look to their houses.
Would you like a gift for your Christmas present?
During the holidays, inmates don traditional red and green attire and head out to local daycare centers. In the spring, inmates adopt a local school and sponsor a day of friendly competition on the baseball diamond, all in an effort to raise money for books, computers, and school supplies.
Service with us tomorrow.
In the fourth and final phase of the Positive Production Program, inmates obtain employment out in the community.
That's why we have the work release program that we take revenues from their income and pay back the community for the cost of their incarceration. Plus, we use those funds to pay for the rehabilitation. Our whole program here is self-supporting.
Part of the money inmates earn from outside employment is placed into a bank account they have access to once they're released from jail. The outside employment is not only a practical way to help them get a fresh start financially, but it also helps inmates continue to build the self-esteem they need to succeed.
It's just given me more than
it's just something more than just something on paper. It's actually doing it, you know. It's the practical aspect of changing myself and changing my life.
I think that the fact that this program is oriented toward giving these inmates the capacity to go out and find a job and become a productive member of our society is exactly the objective we ought to be shooting for.
What I'm looking for, anything that doesn't meet the requirement here.
43-year-old Mervyn Howard spent about 6 months in the jail's work-release program remodeling public housing apartments. After he was released from jail, he kept his job and now inspects the work of other inmates at the complex.
I would have been still in jail downtown, probably frustrated and more fights. And of course, you know, you get your good time taking for misbehavior there. Even if I were released without a job, I'll probably be on the way back now.
37-year-old Joyce Jones was also able to keep her work release job after she got out of jail. Jones works in the kitchen of a local restaurant. She saved enough money to buy a car and home and is working toward her goal of going back to school to take up nursing. Although the inmate work and educational programs at the Jefferson County Correctional Facility haven't been around long enough to provide any type of long-term track record, early results are encouraging. State and federal officials continue to show their interest and support.
My staff has reviewed literally hundreds of these types of efforts and initiatives statewide. This is among one of the very best in the state.
Which one of you want to talk to me about what this program does for you that you have not had before? I want to know what you're learning. Why is your life going to be any different after having done this program?
I've been incarcerated. This is my third fall. And what this program has done for me is helped me develop a sense of self-confidence.
Yes.
I'm starting to trust myself and believe in myself again.
I think it is a classic example of what you do when you hold people accountable, when you expect the best from them, when you give them the tools and the tools to be accountable.
I'd love to see the kind of programs adopted across the state and the nation, the things that we're doing here, because it's less expensive to construct, substantially less expensive. In fact, probably 10 to 20% of the cost of an average prison cell. And inmates have to pay for the rehabilitation, where most other facilities in this state and in the nation that I'm aware of, taxpayers are paying for that.
Sheriff Griffith and his officers are dedicated to finding a way to turn the tide on crime, finding a way to turn inmates back out into the community as law-abiding, productive citizens.
I hope that they can find something here that will give them that added advantage on the outside where they don't come back.
There are a lot that we're not going to be able to change, but we have to start somewhere, and there are some that we are going to change, and that's what you have to do it for, because then they could possibly affect somebody else's life and stop them from coming back.
Never give up.
You gonna make it this time?
Yes, ma'am. Sure am.
Let's go, brother.
And I got to believe it. I can do it, and I am doing it, even though it gets hard sometimes. But I'm not giving up. That's the thing. I gave up last time. I'm not giving up.
Motto: 5 people doing production.